Hello, welcome to my happy place. Today we are going to take a look at our SpinFX 10 templates. The SpinFX 10 is interesting because when you look at it, you might believe that the template is the same whether it's stitched this way or stitched this way. However, I did do some research on that. I drew it out both ways, and there is a difference to it. It's not a real big difference, but it is enough of a difference that we can make some really interesting designs with it. It does have a pin like all of the rest of our SpinFX templates, and it does come in 5 sizes in the collection. Okay, the set is 3.5 inch, 5.5 inch, 7.5 inch, which is the size we're going to use today, 9.5 inch, and 11.5 inch. This picture shows you an 8-point rotation or motif. Here is a picture of the 5 templates, and of course it gives the shank height. Mine is low shank still. When we open the instructions, we'll notice that it tells us that the SpinFX 10 is available in 7 sizes. We have the 5 sizes that are available in the complete collection, plus a mini 2.5 inch and 1.5 inch. It will give you a picture of 8 rotations with each of the different sides pointed out, along with 16 rotations. And that's what we're doing today, is an 8 rotation and a 16 rotation. On the back, we have additional designs, and then we have a short bio of Leonie West, the designer inventor of Westalee Templates and Rulers. In 2015, Westalee Design partnered with So Steady in Eugene, Oregon, and now all of the templates and rulers are made right here on shore in Eugene, Oregon. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'll get these things moved out of the way. We'll make sure that we're all set up so that you get the best vantage point available. Again, like I do with all of these videos, I'm going to stitch towards myself so that you can see just exactly what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to just adjust a little bit here. Make sure we're well focused. And I think we want to move us in. There we go. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down. Ooh, I almost forgot. I want to test everything first. Now, my foot is down pretty low, and that could cause me some problems. So I'm just going to loosen my foot and let it fall onto the top of my fabric. Then I'm going to tighten it down. I call this kissing the fabric. And what that means is that I can easily move my fabric under the foot, but it is literally touching the top of the fabric. So it's just kissing the top of the fabric. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my bobbin thread up because this is where I want to also check my tension before we get started. It's so much easier to be able to do it off in a margin like this than to try and do it once we have our project in process. So here we go. Put my foot down, my needle down. You always want to have that foot down before you put the needle down. The foot is a little bit high and it can cause that needle bar to come crashing down on it. And you don't want that happening. Okay, it looks really good from this side. And what I mean by that is I'm not seeing any bobbin thread coming up. And get those threads out of the way there. And when I turn it over, yeah, it looks great. I'm not seeing any top thread coming through to the back side. So that tells me that my tension is good and my foot is set at the right height. Okay, again, pulling my bobbin thread up right in the center. When I mark my blocks, I do them all the same. I mark a complete vertical and a complete horizontal block, or direction, I'm sorry. The reason that I like to do that is because when I come back to trim my block out, I want to trim from that vertical and horizontal line out. And the reason that I want to do that, so what I'm saying is I want to measure, say I want an 8.5 inch block. Well, 8.5 inches is going to be 4 1/4 inches from the center to the right hand margin or trim spot, and from the center to the left. If I try and come in off of this edge, after it's quilted, I know I started with 11-inch block. However, our quilting is going to kind of draw that fabric in. We may not end with an 11-inch block. Therefore, it's always much safer and more accurate to go ahead and measure from that center line out when you are trimming up your blocks. Okay, so I'm going to take one stitch in place. And there we go. Oh, my foot let loose. I didn't have it tight enough. Okay, there we go. No worries. Now this has got a really soft, gentle curve to it. It's what I call a beginner's dream template. There's no sharp corners to fall off of. It's probably the easiest template. We want to take one extra stitch up at the top here before we start going. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure that our thread doesn't pull over that point and give us kind of a sloppy up there. We want it to be nice and crisp. When you're first starting out, don't worry so much about your stitch length being, every stitch being perfectly even. That's going to come with time and practice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in the opposite line. So I did this line first. I'm going to come into this line second. Now, why do I do that? The reason that I do that is because I want my block to be drawn in at an equal ratio all the way around. If I went in a circle with my spin effects, it would not give me an even draw of fabric. So this is the way to do it. Nice and even all the way around. Okay. What I love about watching spin effects is I love to watch the secondary designs that end up coming out in them. And it is no different with this particular template. So there's my number 1 and number 2 rotation, not on my number 1 and number 2 reference lines. These are on opposite reference lines. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the other reference lines at 90 degrees. Learning to work your hand in concert with your foot to make sure that you have a certain speed with your machine is an absolutely invaluable skill when it comes to ruler work. I know a lot of people have machines that have a button or a slider that you can speed up or slow down your machines. And that's great. If you happen to have one, definitely should use it if you're comfortable with it. I, however, am using a vintage machine. I do not have the luxury of having any kind of electronics or helping aids on it. This machine stitches straight forwards and backwards, and that is it. So the fact that I'm able to coordinate my hand speed with my foot speed is good because it helps me to be successful. I am not a fast stitcher. I don't really believe in fast stitching. Some people do, and that's fine. If that works for you, that's awesome. It just never worked real well for me. I like to take things nice and easy. So what we've got here, I'm going to go ahead and take this out and show you, is we've got 4 rotations. Isn't that just the sweetest thing? It's just like a little wood flower to me. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and I'm going to do these diagonal lines. And we're going to do 4 more rotations. And here's where we're going to really start seeing those secondary lines develop. Again, don't forget that one extra line up at the top. You don't want to hesitate there for too long. The reason being is if you wait too long at that point, you're going to end up with a thread ball under there. Okay, hang on I have to pause you for 1 second here. Okay, we're back. Apologize for that. And we're coming again, even though we're doing this on a different angle, we're still coming straight across. Now, our machines only stitch in a straight line. I apologize. I'm suffering from a summer cold, and when my body says you're going to cough uncontrollably now for the next 5 minutes, there's no stopping it. Okay, we are back. As I was saying, our machines can only stitch a straight stitch. It cannot stitch a curve. So what we do to make our curves look a lot smoother is we stitch a shorter stitch. The shorter stitch will give the illusion that our stitches are curved when they are not. They're still straight. So when you're doing that, a lot of people say, well, there could be a straight portion and a curved portion of my template. What do I do with that? My suggestion, and again, this is just my suggestion, you do it whatever way you're more comfortable. The way I do it is if I'm making a curved section with a shorter stitch, I do the entire design with a shorter stitch. I think consistency is more important than size. If you're going to do part of it long stitches and part of it short stitches, I think that's going to be very noticeable. Or if you do the whole thing one way or another, it's going to be very cohesive. So, like I said, I am not the wizard here. I don't have all of the answers, I'm sure. I would just like to pass on what I have learned over the years and how I feel it works for me. And I hope that it works just as well for you as it does for me. I come from a background of many, many years of free motion stitching. And a lot of what I learned as I was free motion stitching has brought me to be successful with the templates. To me, the templates are free motion on steroids. They're really guided free motion. So when you're actually doing this, you're actually doing guided free motion quilting. And it's just a lovely thing. It really is. Okay, I've got 8 rotations done, so let's take a look. Isn't that awesome? It's just a beautiful, beautiful, I can see it as a flower in so many different ways. If you look, one of my table toppers, I think it's the July table topper, I use the number 10 spin effects for a flower and a bud, and it works really well for both. So we've got our 8 points in. I'm going to go ahead and put my template back on now. And I'm going to make the other 8 rotations. Again, across from one another. I'm not going to change the method. I'm just going to change where on the block that I am putting them. And here comes some more of those secondary designs that I talked about earlier. So, to save you from having to sit here and watch me stitch out 8 more rotations, which is probably about as exciting as watching paint dry, I'm going to go ahead and put you on hold. And then I will come back when I have 16 rotations completed. Okay, sorry about that. We are on our last rotation, which is number 16. Oops, getting the thread buildup does get a little thick in the center. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll stop just 1 stitch short or half a stitch short and then hand wheel across to the one across from it and maybe about a half a stitch away. I find that to be helpful from keeping that thread from getting too thick in the center. You can also use a wooden clapper. If you steam the center really well and put the wooden clapper on, it will definitely help you to eliminate a lot of the bulk of that thread. Okay, we're all done now, so we're going to go ahead and take this off. I'm just going to go and pull this out. I will bury these later. And there we have our 16-point rotation. Let you see the whole thing. There it is. Again, 11-inch square. I'm using the 7.5-inch templates on this. And this one is our Spin Effects 10. So we have 6 more to go. And we will meet you back here to go over those. And don't forget that these are all available at sewsteady.com. If you have any comments, please go ahead and leave them for me. Anything special you want to see, let me know how you think I'm doing. And we will meet you back here tomorrow with another Spin Effects. So until then, let's quilt.